Welcome to Extropy on Air, the podcast from Extropy Advisors, where we dive into the world of AI, digital transformation, and the future of business. Each episode will bring you perspective from leaders, innovators, and experts across industries, all focused on helping organizations and, more importantly, people thrive in a changing world. Let's get started. Welcome back to Extropy on Air, where we connect digital transformation strategy with real-world execution in the office of the CFO. I'm Kevin Zirkle with Extropy Advisors, and if you've been following our series, you already know that we've been exploring our strategic partnership with Raindrop. Today, we're going to shift focus from contracts really to the next vital pillar of spend management, and that is supplier management. This goes far beyond name and tax ID. It's about managing risk, compliance, lifecycle, and even performance of these suppliers. So happy again to have Ward Karson joining me, the Chief Operating Officer at Raindrops. Ward, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Great to be back. Supplier management is definitely one of those areas that quietly makes or breaks your procurement and VMO success.
Exactly, and we've got a lot of interested customers looking for this. So let's dig right into it. I mean, what has changed, in your opinion, the last 5 years that makes supplier management a true CFO level priority?
Honestly, everything. COVID, geopolitical shifts, ESG requirements, supply chain redundancy, cybersecurity threats, which have made supplier relationships riskier and more scrutinized than ever. Finance leaders need transparency and control. You can't just, approve a supplier and move on. You need an ongoing, intelligent view of that relationship.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, we see this too. I mean, especially during audits and ESG reviews, it's not just are they active, it's are they verified, are they compliant, and low risk to the business. I mean, there's been a real shift in how supplier management is being viewed. In the past, it was very much a transactional activity,
Yeah.
and it's turning into really a strategic capability. And I think that's great. I've heard more than one CFO say, our suppliers are now our partners in resilience. And that is a huge mindset change I think we're seeing with a lot of our clients.
I always love when people talk about vendors. To me, vendors is when I was growing up in Chicago, go to Wrigley Field and they give the guy $1, he got me a hot dog. That was like the vendor. We need to start thinking about about suppliers as partners, but that shift accelerated during COVID. So you remember this when PPE suppliers dried up or semiconductor shipments stalled, the procurement to supply chain teams had to scramble. And finance teams suddenly realized how little insight they had into who they were actively relying on.
Yeah, and I think now, I mean, with ESG and really the compliance standards that are rising, I think that supplier transparency, it's not just nice to have anymore. I think it's becoming a regulatory requirement in a lot of industries.
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, so whether it's conflict minerals, forced labor, carbon emissions, governments, investors, and consumers, they're all asking kind of the same question. Do you know who you're doing business with?
Yeah, without a doubt. So tell us a little bit about Raindrop Supplier Management Module. I mean, what do you guys do that's kind of different in the market?
So let's talk about our AI right after this, but Raindrop starts with configurable supplier intake and onboarding workflows. So we make it easy to collect the right data, route it for approval, sync it across systems. And then from there, we manage risk profiles and compliance requirements, real-time watch list monitoring. So think about OFAC and sanctions and stuff like that. ESG and DEI tracking, performance metrics, so delivery, support, issues, those type of things. Automated document requests, expiration alerts, those type of items.
So you guys aren't just talking onboarding. I mean, you're really talking full life cycle management for these suppliers, it sounds like.
Yeah. It's not just onboarding. It's exactly. I mean, it's the supplier relationships, which they evolve, right? And you have to track that evolution automatically over time throughout the life cycle of the relationship.
Exactly. And as part of that evolution, I mean, let's talk for a minute about supplier re-verification. I think that's an area that a lot of clients overlook. I mean, onboarding happens once and then nothing. What does Raindrop do to help maintain some of those supplier records over time?
So that's a great point. You put a smile on my face because that's how a lot of people used to view it. We support automated recertification cycles. So you could configure to revalidate things like insurance certificates or diversity certifications or tax forms, W-9, whatever it is, whatever cadence you want. And if something's missing or if it's expired, the supplier is automatically notified. And then, of course, your team is alerted as well.
Yeah, and that alone, it saves hours of tracking and chasing, and probably keeps audit risk relatively low as well, which is great. You mentioned earlier you want to talk about AI, so let's talk AI. What are some real use cases here from a supplier management standpoint?
So we use AI in several kind of key ways. I'll give you three of them. So let's just start with document validation. So AI confirms that uploaded, like I think I mentioned W-9s earlier, certificates of insurance earlier, right? And certifications, that they all match expected formats and values, right? Let's use a second example, would be risk scoring. So the AI is going to aggregate external data like credit scores, legal filings, industry trends, to create this dynamic supplier risk profile through our AI automatically for you. And then third example could be behavioral monitoring. So the platform identifies anomalies in supplier performance or payment terms, and it flags them for you.
Yeah, those are great use cases, and it sounds like they can really help clients stay ahead of the risk issues and not just react when something goes wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So a supplier's risk profile, we all know this, it's not static. If their parent company gets sanctioned or if their ESG score drops, you want to know today, not next quarter.
Yeah, and really, I mean, let's not forget, it's not just about making it easier for us. We want to make it easier for the suppliers. I mean, if code had taught us anything, partnerships are absolutely critical, are absolutely key in critical times when the supplier partner relationship breaks down.
Yeah, this is what I was referring to earlier. So suppliers that are part of the Raindrop marketplace, which we have, by the way, and don't have to pay to join. That's not a shot at anybody else. They can easily access their information. So we've moved beyond supplier portals where suppliers post information to a real environment where they could interact collaboratively with you and other potential customers, honestly.
Yeah. And many of our clients, they already have systems in certain parts of the supply chain. So they may have a BASware, another P2P application, certainly ERPs, sometimes multiple. How does Raindrop supplier management kind of layer into an architecture like that?
Seamlessly, to be honest with you. So we're not a monolithic platform. I mean, you could deploy Raindrop supplier management as a standalone module, which it integrates bidirectionally via APIs. So what does that mean? It means that you could onboard a supplier in Raindrop and you could push that data to BASware or SAP, ERP, or vice versa, either.
Yeah, I think that modularity is really huge. I mean, it lets us plug Raindrop in exactly where it's going to add the most value for that customer at that point in time. I mean, it really is not disrupting anything else in the rest of their tech stack. So one of the questions we actually get a lot from our IT leaders are, how heavy is this thing going to be to deploy? What are we talking about here? I mean, it's always refreshing when we can say to them, lightweight, modular, API ready. I mean, can you speak to kind of the time to value here for this type of module?
I'm literally smiling because you are hitting squarely on our value prop. So we've launched supplier management for clients in under a month. The configuration, it's flexible. The UI is intuitive. The integration layer is mature. Plus, let's be honest, clients don't have to wait for a full system overhaul. They can just start with the core and they can grow from there.
I think that's exactly what CFOs want today. I mean, they really are looking for results without resource drain. I mean,
Totally.
the years of not driving to impact and results, I think, are over. It just can't happen in most organizations today. All right, like we did with some of the other modules, give us a story. I mean, tell us a little bit about something that's going to illustrate the impact of this module for a client.
So let's use for one of our chemical manufacturing clients. Suppliers are onboarded in Raindrop, including completion of configurable supplier questionnaire. And Raindrop validates and routes the supplier for internal review and approval. All standard, right? That's great. But once approved, Raindrop pushes that validated supplier to I think their SAP, if I'm not mistaken, ERP, including all the key fields. So like tags such as company codes, compliance details, things like that. And then SAP sends back their system generated data, supplier ID, company code mappings to Raindrop, ensuring our records are both way aligned. This integration supports bidirectional syncing. So it includes activation and deactivation of supplier records. So status changes in either system are reflected in the other. The result is this compliant seamless onboarding process with one clean supplier record across both systems. So this reduces manual work and it improves, obviously, data integrity, right? They've reduced cycle time from setting up new suppliers by 75%. They're vetting and onboarding 1,000 new and qualified suppliers just in their first year alone.
Yeah, that's real transformation. I mean, that's the type of stuff that delivers that immediate and also long-term ROI. I mean, that fast onboarding, better decisions, less risk. Again, really important stuff here. So one area I did want to touch on is we're hearing that a lot still these days. So what
Mhm.
does Raindrop do to help track and report on those types of issues?
Great point. We allow clients to capture ESG certifications, ownership status, so like women owned, minority owned, et cetera, right? Veteran owned, and sustainability metrics at onboarding, and then, of course, track them over time. And you can generate supplier diversity dashboards and even scorecards with our AI assisted insights.
Yeah, that's good because I mean that type of reporting is just becoming a standard ask. I don't think it's a
Yeah.
nice to have anymore by any stretch.
No, exactly. It's about integrity. It's about impact. That's really what it's about.
And you'd actually mentioned ESG scorecards. Can clients customize which metrics they're tracking for suppliers?
Yeah, so completely. Yeah. You can define your own KPIs. So let's use like carbon footprint, water usage, DEI targets, and then track them per supplier, per category, per region. We also integrate with ESG data providers to enrich those profiles automatically.
Yeah, I think that kind of data that really turns supplier management into a source of strategic value for a company. I mean, it's not just compliance overhead anymore.
Exactly.
If we could, let's maybe zoom out just for a second. How does Raindrop handle geopolitical or financial risk monitoring across global suppliers? So companies beyond just the US borders, for example.
So we connect to external feeds. Think about OFAC, think about sanctions lists, bankruptcy filings, and more. If a supplier is flagged, we update the risk score in real time and alert users proactively. This helps clients stay ahead of the disruptions before they hit the bottom line.
Yeah, without it. I mean, that's absolutely essential in today's business. I mean,
Yeah.
you hear so much about fraud and risk, and yeah, it's just becoming a no-brainer.
Yeah.
At Extropy, we often get brought in when organizations feel stuck. You know, they might have too many suppliers, too little insight. What's your take on how clients can truly succeed utilizing supplier management as a tool to do that?
It starts with leadership alignment. What do you actually want to know about your suppliers is probably the real question. Then having partners like Extropy guide that change, configuring the solution, driving adoption across business units, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way we look at it, I mean, supplier management, it really is a team sport in companies today. I mean, it's procurement, legal, finance, ESG, IT. They all have a stake in it. So one of the things we do at Extropy is really help build cross-functional adoption plans. We make sure that ESG and legal, procurement, IT, finance all have a seat at the table. And I do think that really helps what drives alignment within organizations and avoids what we call tool sprawl.
Yeah, so that's absolutely why we love working with your team, to be honest. When we go in together, the client doesn't get just a system. They get a plan, a roadmap, and frankly, a partner who understands and delivers on their business priorities.
I think this has been a great discussion, Ward. I really do. And again, if you're a CFO or a procurement leader listening to this, this is your call to action. I mean, don't wait for a supply chain issue or an audit finding. This is something that you can take control of now, and it's not going to be a heavy lift for you. It really is not.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, if you don't know your suppliers, you don't know your business, and you certainly don't know your risk.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Maybe before we wrap, Ward, what advice would you give to a CFO or procurement leader that's listening who might still feel overwhelmed by supplier data and risk?
I would say start small. Start small. Focus on critical suppliers or maybe one region. Like clean up that process first. Don't boil the ocean. You'll see immediate value. And then from there, it becomes much easier to expand.
I will say, look forward to you guys joining us next time on Extropy on Air. We're going to tackle Raindrop's sourcing module in the next episode. How to manage sourcing events faster, smarter, with better results using, of course, AI. and Raindrop along the way. So with that, thanks for listening to this episode. If you're enjoying the series, again, leave us a review, like us, follow us, share us. We certainly welcome that. So this has been Extropy on Air. I'm Kevin Zirkle. Thanks for listening, and always know that we're here to help you transform forward. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Extropy on Air. We hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode, and connect with us at Extropy Advisors to continue the conversation on AI and digital transformation. Until next time, I'm Kevin Zirkle, and this has been Extropy on Air.